And welcome to Impact 2025, our continuing conversation where we talk about all different type of topics, from race, religion, current events, everything that you can think of. And as always, we ask that you participate in this process, that you put your comments and your questions into the comments section, and you provide us your insight. So if you feel like we're saying something that makes sense, go ahead and put that in there. If you feel like we're saying something that's totally crazy, go ahead and put that in there. If you have a question, or go ahead and put that in there. So you participate. Facebook, YouTube, put it in the comment section. It will show up on the screen, and we will be able to address your issue. As always, want to make sure that we know what else is being offered here. On Tuesdays, that's today, at 7 o'clock, we have a time of prayer from 7 to 7:45. That's a time that everybody in the ministry is praying. And so whether you want to pray for the whole entire time or you want to just pray for a couple of minutes, doesn't matter. But between the time of 7 to 7:45, please join us in prayer. At 7 o'clock on Thursdays, we have Thursday Thirst, our weekly Bible study. That's a time where we delve into the Bible. Please join us for that. So that's Facebook and YouTube as well. And then on Sundays at 10, we have worship service that is here on the screen at the address. And it's also Facebook and YouTube as well. So please feel free to join us for that. And of course, on Tuesdays at 8, we have Impact 2025. And as we always love to do, we hop right into what's going on. A lot of the different things that are occurring, of course, we always say that it's always, not always, but in the more recent months and years, it's been very easy to find things to talk about. A lot of the things are political. Every once in a while, we have things that are current event-y, if that makes more sense. But we never run out of things to talk about. And this week absolutely is no different. This week, I guess we're going to stay more political because what we're going to talk about is something that you've already probably heard and you probably already know, and it is Harvard University and what is going on with Harvard University. And so Harvard University is being attacked by many people, mainly the White House right now and the current president. But it's been attacked by people for years. People really want to come at Harvard because what Harvard University has done is become more of a, as they say, a liberal think tank, a place where people who have very liberal and extreme ideas in that realm, where they can go and think and play. And so it's been attacked by many people. They're saying, well, people with more conservative ideas, people with more conservative thought processes, they don't really have the space to play in Harvard, one of the most prestigious universities in the United States, as they say. And so there was some criticism there. And when they had at the start of the Palestinian Israeli conflict in Gaza, there were many people who were pro-Palestinian in the sense of, when I say pro-Palestinian, not that they supported Hamas or they supported what was the tragedies that were done, but what they supported was not killing 30,000, 40,000 innocent people. And so when they were pro-Palestinian and anti-war in the sense of, let's stop just killing people. Israel needs to stop just killing people for revenge or for the sake of trying to take over the whole Gaza Strip. And so because of that, because of the some of the more liberal ideas and the more liberal thought processes, because of the fact that they said that the number roughly was around 90% of their around 90% of their professors identify as either liberal or center, or liberal center, or liberal leaning to the center. They were saying there wasn't a lot of diversity of thought, and people wanted to attack them. And so your Palestinian views, or what happened on the campus when it came to the Palestinians and the Israelis, because of what was going on as far as you're not having a big group for conservative thought, and more so it's been a bastion of thought for liberals. People wanted to attack. And so right now, two things have happened. Federal funding has been pulled or threatened to be pulled, more so having to go over some legal hurdles by the current administration and the president from Harvard. But now the new thing is saying that the immigration statuses, the visas, the student visas for international students at Harvard were being evaluated, suspended, and pulled. And so what the goal is here is to intimidate Harvard by not allowing international students. Over 50% of their international students do come from China. A large number, because those are people who can afford to pay, because international students pay far more than domestic students. They don't get financial aid and government assistance, so they have to come out of pocket and they have to pay. Now they do get some scholarships and grants, but not nearly like somebody who is from the United States. And so they are a big revenue driver. And so that's let's be real. That's the real reason that they're being attacked. They want to get at the money. And so in order for people who don't like Harvard to attack Harvard, they want to attack the money. So the federal funding, that's a big piece of money, that's billions of dollars per B. And now attacking the international students, which is a significant source of income for the university as well. And so as much as people want to say this is about, I want to get at them and pay back because we're just going to take away the international students because, immigration, blah, 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 blah. They don't care anything about that. That's a revenue driver. That's money. These are people who pay cash, who end up paying the whole thing, who end up they don't hit the student loan system. These are people who are paying money to go to this university. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to hit that money. And so why is this important? Why we're talking about this? This is another issue of kind of where we're hitting into diversity, where we're hitting into how we're treating one another, how we're treating people. But here's one question I think for people, for the church and for us. And when I was looking at this and looking at some of the issues that people are saying, there's not enough diversity at Harvard. They're saying, and there needs to be more conservative voices, and there needs to be a balance there. One of the questions then comes is into the church. Do we need to make sure that we have enough diversity of thought in our churches, that we're not siloed, that we don't have all liberals in the church, or all Republicans in the church, or all Democrats in the church, or all people who think one way in the church? Should we have difference of thought? And for the same reasons that it's beneficial for businesses and things, are some of the same reasons that I think it may be beneficial for the church, and maybe beneficial to consider it for the church, to have a significant and a major push to have diversity of thought or different types of people. Why? Because just like in a business, and let's be clear, churches and businesses are not the same, not that similar at all. If you think that they are, you think about that a little bit. But some of the benefit of a business is to be able to see different areas, different spots. I can see, if I have all men in my business and in my decision making or just around, then I really don't understand what is going on with women in different communities that women may participate in different areas that women may participate in. I can only think about what guys participate, the male communities that they do in different parts. So how can I address other people's issues? How can I be able to really make other people feel comfortable if I don't have anybody in positions of power that are that are in these different communities. That's how the businesses look at it. So they're like, okay, a good example was the makeup in makeup. A lot of people in makeup. It was white people in makeup for years, and major makeup companies. And so some of the major companies, when it comes to makeup, we're looking at, all right, we're not really getting a lot of black people buying our makeup. You're getting a couple, but we're missing the whole entire market. And one of the reasons is because they didn't have any diversity of thought in their leadership. And so as you bring people in, and then you recognize and see that there's other markets, and you see that, oh, wait a minute, the major companies are saying, okay, we're seeing that people of color are going to all these little smaller stores because they have different products, and our products don't address their needs. And the reason why our products don't address their needs is because we never had anybody in the room to speak to that issue. And so in the makeup world, and this is recent, within the past 5 years, some of the major companies have now been dealing towards people of color, different skin tones, different shades, and just a lot of different types of makeup that are now for different skin types. They were just all making it for white skin, for a paler type of skin. Now they're doing it for different types of skin, darker skin, different hues, different colors, all of this stuff. So it opened up a whole brand new market for a lot of these larger companies who weren't recognizing women of color. The church. We only know what we know. And as the church, we have a long reach to be able to touch different people, but we only know who we know. And so if we aren't diverse in, I think, our populations, we don't get to see other opportunities to be in the community, other opportunities to share with people, other opportunities to get to know people and communicate with people and talk to people. Now, I'll say this about the same way about Harvard and some other places who are looking and saying, okay, well, we're being attacked because we aren't diverse and we have a lot of thought one way. Sometimes that's just what it is. I can tell you, diversity of thought does not go out to, I'm going to keep it real, Trump supporters. Because of the fact that some of them are disillusioned, some of them believe in order to be a Trump supporter, you have to believe in a lot of lying, or being able to either believe in the lie or pacify yourself where you're able to accept lies. And I don't think that works as far as diversity sometimes. And so sometimes you're not going to be able to be diverse there. But that doesn't mean that we don't need diversity, period. And so we do need a situation of where we can be diverse across the board. Women in power, men in power, older people in power, younger people in power, or in our populations. And I know a lot of that just comes to who can we get in the door. But I think it's a push where we need to consider if we aren't welcoming to different groups of thought as the church. Why is that? Why aren't we attracting different types of groups and attitudes and different types of people? And is that a problem? Again, as I will sit back and say, all right, there's some groups that are not going to be. If you are anti-woman, if you don't think that women have any role, shouldn't be talking, like if you are very old world when it comes to women, absolutely not. You're not going to be feeling comfortable, in many churches. You're not going to be comfortable in our church. That's just not going to be. So that diversity of thought is not going to be welcoming for you. And so if you have that, you're going to have a tough time. Wouldn't even want you there because you're not going to get a full. You're not going to be able to fully be who you are and have an understanding of Christ. You're going to be blocked all the time because you have this mentality that doesn't fit what anybody else has in the ministry. So all diversity is not going to work. But should we be able to be open enough to somebody who just thinks differently? Look, everybody can't be the old school, can't have all the same old school people who eat the same way, look the same way, dress the same way, talk the same way, walk the same way. We need diversity of thought, and because that's what the community is. so we can be able to get out there. When Jesus' way of thinking differed from that of the conservative Jewish authorities, they sought to kill him. As the church, if we truly stand on Christian principles, the mega movement will seek to destroy the church. Any thoughts that challenges mega thinking will be attacked. Absolutely agree on that one as well. And so that's the weird part about trying to bring in a lot of folk. It should be some diversity of thought, but like I said, the diversity only goes so far. There are groups that at the end of the day you're not going to have in there. I got opinions about across the board. One of the going back to the universities, one of the major things they were talking about is that at the end of the day, they don't have conservative professors. You have very few conservative professors, and if you do have them, it might be in math, but you're not going to have it in any of the. You don't have a large number of conservative professors across major universities in more of the thought-provoking majors in areas, your sciences, your social sciences. You're not going to have anything in your philosophy areas. Even in your theological areas, you're not going to have a lot of people there who are conservative in thought. And one of the reasons in the processes for that is in the current, they had a little bit more in the past, but in the current is because of what they try to believe. They try to get away from education, traditional education, and have some thoughts on some non-proven and some non-proven theories and some craziness there. And so that's not the space. If you're going to be at a university, if you're going to be a place of education and educational thought, and you want to wrestle with facts and you want to show people how to think and use facts, and you have to cite your sources. You need to be able to have in-depth and realistic conversations. Well, you're not going to be able to have those people there, and so they're not going to be able to fit the mold. And so just like I think in this conversation here, when Jesus had a different way of thinking, the majority of the masses are going to come against you. And so those people are not going to be the people you're going to want to have within your group. More so the diversity of people that we just need to have, I think is going to have to just be demographic more so than the thought process. At the end of the day, the current conservative thought, or the current way that a more conservative thought is brought out here in the United States is disturbing and doesn't really fit a lot of the moral framework. And that's going to be a tough one in a lot of churches who are really trying to follow the word of God to be able to have a lot of conservative thought in there. You're going to struggle with that. You're going to struggle with that. And so if you have a conservative political leaning or way of thinking, you're gonna struggle to be in a real church. If you're in one of those churches who are guided by politics, and so basically they're just political action committees or arms of the political parties with just some crosses on the door, well, then you'll be fine. But if you really have to sit back and you have to look at some of the issues, when it comes to how we treat homeless people, how do we treat people who don't have the right documentation to be legal citizens? How do we treat one another? How do we treat the sick? How do we treat the poor? How do we treat the young? How do we treat the old? How do we treat one another? How do we treat people we like? How do we treat people we don't like? How do we treat our enemy? You're not going to be able to function in the church if you're in that current American conservative realm. And so if I look around and be like, well, why aren't any of them here? It's because this is not somewhere where that ideology is going to work. If you actually come in here and you read the word of God, you will have to abandon. You're going to abandon one. You're either going to have to abandon the word of God or you're going to abandon American conservatism, because both of those things don't fit. And so, that diversity I'm not worried about, because I don't think that will exist. But the diversity of thought when it comes to other things should exist. At the end of the day, if you're going to have, you should have all types of people. Everybody has a different, well, not everybody has a different sin. You should be able to have somebody in there with almost every sin. And I think that more so represents some of the diversity, I would say. So if you had somebody in there who was, let's say, LGBTQ, but you also had somebody in there who was a habitual liar, or you had somebody in there who had done physical violence in the past, or you had somebody in there who stole, who couldn't stop stealing, a klepto. You have somebody in there who has significant issues with their sexual desires, or you have somebody in there who, just whatever. You should have a little bit of everything. You should. And so I think that's the kind of diversity that we need. And then again, we should have basically most demographics covered, because then that allows us to touch most of the different populations. You don't know where young people are if you don't have any young people in your organization, and you don't give them any ability to speak and do things. You don't know where you don't know where older people are and what they do during the day if you don't have anybody in the organization. And so we should try to be open to everybody wanting to come and be a part of our ministries, because then that allows us to be able to reciprocate and turn it back out into the community and touch all of these different areas. Today, to be conservative is to be against anyone who does not think the way they think and wanting to destroy those who do not think the way conservatives think. There is not acceptance or tolerance or other viewpoints. Yeah, I think that the crazy part is that conservative people say the same thing about liberal people. Liberal people say the same thing about conservative people, that, well, you don't allow us to think and you don't allow us to think. I think they're both going to say the same thing. I do think what's important, though, is that your group can have conversations, whereas who is throwing the most names out? Who is throwing the most names out with vitriol that doesn't allow you to have a real conversation? And so, when you're saying, well, when you have views that people are, that a whole group of folk are child molesters, or they're eating babies, or they're murdering people, when you believe conspiracy theories and weird things like that, when you see clear lies and you want those lies to be true so bad that you'll start to believe them, that doesn't allow for acceptance or tolerance. That doesn't allow for conversation, because I need you to come get on the crazy train with me. I don't have any facts. I just have what I want to be true, and I just deal with that. And that's tough. That's a tough one for a lot of folk to get on board with. And so, yeah, I think both of them can say that they don't think, they don't think that if you don't think like me, then I can't have a conversation. I think both sides can get involved in that. But I do think at the end of the day, if you are going to have a conversation, if you can get to a place where you can have a conversation, your conversation needs to be based in some kind of fact, in some kind of reality, as much as you can. I know we get into more so even our debates when we're talking about you said that, well, this is what God told me to do, and this is what God. All right, what do you base that on? What is it on the Bible? Is it not on the Bible? Is it on some book that you got from some person that you like a whole lot? Like, where are you getting your information from? And so even with those conversations, let's deal in some facts. And so I think that's where the problem comes into play when we're talking about the current environment of conservative, liberal, Democrat, Republican, that sort of issue. You got people who just don't want to deal in any kind of reality. In fact, they just want to believe what they want to believe, and then they want to get mad at you for not believing what they believe, but they have no real facts on. True liberals are usually open to other thoughts and opinions. You have a right to your opinion. Yeah. And I think that's where we all need to be. And I believe that, other folk necessarily don't, but I believe that, yeah. And that's where we have to get to. You do have a right to feel how you want to feel. Now, I have a right to feel how I want to feel. And there are consequences that go with feelings. At the end of the day, straight up, at the end of the day, if I found a person who was who is okay with the political climate and the way it's going, it's okay with how the immigrants are being treated, you're okay with the fact that you brought that the white South Africans got brought over here and put into the front of the line. If you're okay with all of those things, we can still be cool. I'm okay with your opinion. You can't watch my kids. You couldn't. If I went out of town, I wouldn't leave my dog with you. Those sort of things. And that doesn't mean I dislike you as a person or anything like that. But there's a line of, I don't think that you are in the realm of making a lot of some ethical decisions that you may think are ethical or moral. I would disagree with. And so I wouldn't put people that I care about, things that I care about, in your care or your decision-making care. And so there's consequences, even though we should accept one another, there are consequences to our decision-making processes. And so if I don't think that you're a good decision maker, if I know that I only can trust you but so far, we can, we're still good. We're still friends. Doesn't mean if you need something, I'll still, we still we love one another. There are limits to what we can do together, though. I don't trust you the same way that I would trust someone who I know is a moral decision maker. So, I hope that that kind of makes sense. So I think we need to all be together. Oh, not all be together. I think we need to make sure that we are opening and inviting so that we can have as much diversity of thought as possible. There are limits, significant limits to that. Certain people just, at the end of the day, you don't need to be here. If you are racist to the core, you do not need to be here. That diversity of thought we don't need. But there are other places, for you in that diversity of thought. But as much as we can, we need to diversify our populations so that we can serve more people. And so we can serve more populations. And so we should be trying to grow our diversity here. So DEI should be live and in effect in all churches. That's the end point of this, I guess. We need to be as diverse as possible. We need to have as much equity as possible. So equity, that means we need to, at the end of the day, young, old, white, black, got a bunch of money, got a little bit of money. Everybody needs to have an opportunity to lead, to make decisions. And then inclusion, same thing. When we're looking to include and be inclusive of other people, whether we agree or disagree with them. As long as we can get to that top goal when it comes to being followers of Christ, some of the other little things we still need to be inclusive of. All right. I like that one. I don't know how other people are doing. I want to remind everyone, as we thank you for the comments and all the comments that were made. I want to remind everyone about our offers again, but I also want to make sure that I remind that this week on Sunday, when we normally have our Sunday service at 10 o'clock, we still will have it at 10, but instead of it being at the address on your screen at Amani Christian Ministries, it will be at the New Bridge Baptist Church, still at 10 o'clock, still Facebook and YouTube, same place. Just physically, if you want to show up, don't come to that address right there. Come to New Bridge Baptist Church, Richmond, Virginia, or Holly Springs, Virginia. And I don't have the address, but you can look that up. But that's where we will be. But again, still same place on Facebook and YouTube. Just in the physical form, we will be over there at 10 o'clock on Sunday. Remind you about Tuesdays, 7 o'clock. That's our time of prayer. 8 o'clock, that's Impact 2025. And on Thursdays at 7 o'clock, our weekly Bible study. Please join us for that Thursday Thirst. All right. Thank everyone for all the comments, everything that came in. I thought it was a good discussion. Please join us again next week. Same time, same place.